How to make your inline fed water gate. The items you see in front of you are the only items you will need. You see 2 radios. You will need 2 6-foot cables, and they both have stereo jacks, which is indicated by the double black band. You will need also 2 stereo jacks, and each of these jacks are available at Radio Shack, and they also have 2 bands on the tips representing stereo instead of mono. Again, you need 2 CB radios, 1 for transmitting on the right, and the left one would be for receiving. The next item you will need, you may have an external speaker. Windows 7. For demonstration purposes, we're going to also use our second radio up here as a receiver radio. That is to receive our voice. Part 2. I've shown you the items that you would need to set up an inline fed water gate. I've shown you your cables, your 2 6-foot stereo cables, and I also showed you your 2 Y jacks. That's what they're called, Y jacks. Also, I'm going to show you additional cables that are available that we also can use. I prefer using this type of Y cable also, which is available at Radio Shack. And this cable, I like it because I can use one cable for coming from my radio that I'm transmitting on, and I also can receive from the second radio for receiving, and I also can place my headphones inside of the jack and monitor the transmit and my voice. This cable is the one that I prefer using over this cable. What I will do with this cable, I will simply plug it into the Y, into the laptop, to the Y in the jack for the laptop, and that's the first connector. So this eliminates one connector I do not need for the stereo. Also, this cable also has a stereo jack also. Now that I have my Y cable connected, I will now take away and use my other Y jack that's remaining because I'm replacing it with my second jack. I don't need it, so I place it to the side. I'm going to place this jack in the back of my transmit radio. Also, there's another cable that's available. I can also use a splitter cable, showing you the different types of cable. The next phase, we will take our cable, our Y plug cable, which has 2 bands for stereo, and we will place this into the jack that says EXT speaker for the first radio. This is where we place our next 6-foot cable. Our 6-foot cable then gets plugged into one part of the cable, which is part of the 6-foot cable that we need. And we will take that cable and take it over to the computer to our Y cable, and we will place that cable in line also. Now we have cable running from our transmit radio over to our computer. Our next cable is another 6-foot cable. This cable we place also in the Y of the cable, which is also stereo, 2 bands. And we place this all going into the PC. One cable from the radio as seen here. One cable to the back of the radio, the second cable to the Y, or if you had a T, you would place the T into the speaker also. You can use the T, but I prefer using this Y cable here because this third cable gives me the opportunity to place my headset in. The next cable, that's the same cable that comes off of here, and we're going to go up and place it in line with our receiving radio. I have one set up for demonstrations, so we spin it around and we find the external speaker, which I have circled with a black marker, and this cable goes into this radio. As you notice, my receive radio that picks up my voice does not have any kind of antenna cable. Let me spin that back around. Okay, now this radio is going to pick up my voice, and this radio is the one that's going to be transmitting. Again, I have my coax cable hooked to my transmitting radio. I have the cable running from there over to my PC, which we could have used this jack, the Y jack, but I preferred using this three-way jack, which my other cable is going up here. And all that is into the line section of the computer for your microphone, and we'll activate the software soon. Now we'll turn on everything and get it set up and show you the functions. Before I start the functions, I wanted to demonstrate one other important note. We also don't want to forget about an external speaker. Some people have external speakers, and after you have all your cables hooked up to your PC and your extra line cable running up to for your receive to your secondary radio, you have an external speaker. This external speaker has a plug, and it's also plugged into the back of the jack that goes to your radio. This way, the received sound comes out of the jack, it splits and runs over to your speaker so you can hear with your speaker, and this jack runs around and goes over into your PC. Now the reason I need this other jack I use a lot for a headset, which is not available on the two-way splitter, but I need to hear the sound of my voice, or I may need to hear the receive, due to the reason that sometimes the software needs for you to turn your volume control down on your radio very low, which make this speaker almost obsolete for hearing. So you have to play around with it, buy this Y cable if needed to plug your headset in, like a pair of same ones like used for your cell phone, with a pin plug that you plug straight into a pin, and our regular iPod headsets. So a regular pin headset plugs into there. So that was the purpose of the second hole from the radio to get your sound from your speaker. Welcome back. This is the hardware function where we have our mic hooked up, our radio's connected. We've showed you the splitter, which is easily seen in the back of the radio. That single cable line that's coming back for transmit that runs to the splitter, and your second one goes up to your secondary radio, which is now on. Next, we're going to turn on the sound. We should hear noise from our speaker. Okay, we have sound, so the splitter portion is working properly. Now the sound is traveling through the cable to our PC. Next, we want to check out see if our voice is being picked up through our secondary radio. You'll see the needle move. Test 1 2 3. As we see the needle moves. It's up, so that means the radio is receiving, and the cable that's in the back of the radio comes back down, is feeding also into our computer. Next, we'll show you the software. Welcome back for the final of how to create inline water gate. Right now we have all our system lines hooked up. We have our cables hooked up. One coming from a transmit radio, and the second cable here coming from our receiver radio. As we shown before, the needle on the receiver radio does work. And next we will open our software. The software that we're opening, will be using a program known as Total Recorder. So we're going to open up our Total Recorder, our software. Once we get Total Recorder open, there's a few things we need to understand about recording Watergate through this line section. First, you must go to the bottom right corner, as the arrow is showing you. You must go to the bottom right corner of your screen, and where you'll find your icon of your speaker volume. You need to right click that and choose Recorded Devices. This is for Windows Vista. And when we open the device, we'll see on the screen that we do have a stereo mixer. This is very important. Our stereo